One thing I've learned, if you don't hold their feet to the fire, everybody gets burned.
Hold on. Before you start waving around that freedom of speech thing, when you're in a crowded movie theater and you scream fire, you better be able to smell smoke. You come on this radio show and you start saying incandescent things like that, you better have more behind you, pal, than just your thumb. I've been listening to talk radio for years, and one thing I just can't stand is when the host has to, push his way onto people, beat the callers into his way of thinking, extending his ego, or when the callers call in and say something so outrageous and the host lets it go unchallenged. The sign you're on the road to truth is the lack of contradiction. You want to find truth, you just don't simply believe somebody because of their authority or their degree, or you listen to what they say, you test it against reality, and you hold their feet to the fire.
All right, we're back and we're live. Feet to the fire. I'm your host, James, off the Electric, the Black Knight of Talk Radio, into year 20 of this fun little journey in broadcast radio. Tonight, I was working in my studio today. Sunday's my day to get stuff done, and usually everything else has to get precedence. But today I was putting some serious time in on the studio, and I had to relearn how I wired stuff because I did it so long ago, and I've done so many, rebuilds and add-on, and, I left the wires there from the last time, and so it was really something. I got a couple of pictures of the mess that I had posted, but I'm taking the time to do this live talk, and I title it's their fault, because, I've been watching things for a long time, and big on Gab, not so big on Facebook, and there's other ones I've used in the past. Minds, I kind of faded away from that one. I don't go to Truth Social. I do have stuff on Rumble, and I will be doing live video from Rumble in the future, since YouTube has become anathema. But I'm going to upload this to YouTube and see what happens, because one of these days you're going to knock me off. But I'm not going to be saying anything in here that's not true. There's going to be no insults. There's going to be no blaming, okay, those guys over there, that group over there, that color, that race, that ethnicity, that they're the ones doing it all. And it's real important to not do that, because what I see around there is, of course, whites blame the blacks blames the white now. With the white supremacy, you have the Jews already being blamed for everything. And you know what? All of those groups have knuckleheads in there that are doing things evil. There's smart people in there. There's psychopathic geniuses in there doing things bad. There's dumb no minds that are doing things bad. And the whole point of racism today in the right now, I'm not saying anything no one's probably ever heard before, but trying to put it in all perspective. The whole point of racism is to get all these groups against one another, so that the individuals and the spirit of evil that's behind all of this is not seen. Evil comes in all colors, all races, all genders. It's all of it. I mean, it's evil is the majority of what throughout history history is notable stuff. I'm going through a history kick now, going back, listening to the history of the world. I'm into the Middle Ages. The whole history is written down by this guy killed this guy who killed that guy. And then a good guy comes around for a while, and there's a few decades of peace, and then his son kills his other sons and takes over. That's history. That's the world around us. What we're seeing now is nothing different than all throughout history. In fact, all throughout history is worse. And it was brutality, public brutality beyond belief. Now, the bad news is that's coming back. It's getting back in vogue. It's going to be the evil is going to rise up against people who are good, regardless of what group they fall in. And you're going to see massive persecution for groups. And one thing I want to warn about is looking for a political solution within the spiritual realm. I mean, you can't serve God and mammon, and what that means to me is you can't serve God and the material world. It doesn't mean you don't stand up for right. I think individually people have to stand up and be a witness for right and against wrong when it comes across them, as it does. I'm not saying they're not doing anything. But I hear things, one of the things they're using, Gab is a great place. One of the things they're using to talk down Gab is because the Gab system doesn't have the traditional fact checkers and censors that you find in the other medias. And for those who think that Facebook or Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter, is going to be okay, it's already starting to do that. They're all getting their version of censorship or fact checking. You got a right to say it wrong if freedom is to survive. A quote from John Kay and Steppenwolf from the song For Ladies Only. And it's true. You can post, the idea of free speech doesn't mean it's accurate speech, doesn't mean it's friendly speech, doesn't mean it's nice speech. It doesn't mean it's not insultive. It means that you have the right in this country to speak your mind. And people have a right in this country to not listen. And what I like about Gab is so easy is that if you don't like what someone is saying, if you think that they're crude or whatever, or if they're actually racist or whatever, you can simply block them and you'll never see them again. It's simple. This is how the real world works. You can't go into the store and expect everybody to handle things the way you think they should. You have to build your own filters and your own protections in your mind as you go throughout the world. We're making fun of the snowflakes, but the so-called right has snowflakes too. I mean, I just read a post on Gab where I quoted from Jordan. What's his? Not Jordan Maxwell. Jordan Peterson. And I've read a lot of great stuff, saw a lot of great stuff from him. Real good thinking, deep thinker, philosophical. And the one guy posted he's a psyop or whatever. And, after his being he had to go through re-education in Canada for his things he said. Who knows what future works will be, but I've read a lot from him. It's good. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater because of some association. There's things that I have read and learned from people of all walks of life. And, for example, somebody who was a mass murderer could have been a excellent electrical engineerist or whatever. Of course, I always speak in extremes because the extremes tend to show clearly the range of things and the contradictions and whatnot. So the idea of this whole thing about it's them doing it, and once I hear all the time a lot is it's the Jews. Now, you know what? I've had people on my show who had spent a lifetime, spent their professional efforts on undercover exposing all of the ethnic Jews, the racial Jews, the DNA Jews who have done bad things. And that's fine. I mean, because they have. Everyone else does too. But what makes him a target, and he ended up getting knocked off the internet, and he just stopped doing it because he kept on getting, is because of the putting it into the context of the subgroup of Jews. Or if you do subgroup, you're going to go into the subgroup of blacks or subgroup of whites or subgroup, that's where the trouble comes in, because then the people can use other groups to go back at, well, if I start talking about black crime, well, I'm a white racist, right, nationalist or white supremacist or whatever. So I can't talk about black crime. Well, how about we just talk about crime? How about we talk about evil? How about we talk about those things? And there's people who have a culture toward certain things, culturally brought to do certain things, and in that expertise of their cultural training, that's going to concentrate whatever evil that the psychopaths and the evil people are bringing. And there's a component, other culture is another component, which is intelligence. And if you're very clever and intelligent, you can bring a certain level of crime and evil and corruption with the intelligence. And if you're unintelligent, very basic, then the evil person in that context are going to be very simple, low, base, gross evil. And that's how it's done. It's not done because of culture. Now, you could point out various cultures and say, look at the Black Lives Matter, look at they burned buildings, they raised, like that, and a lot of the people in film have been black. So that's true, that happened. But again, I think the context should be in violence and in actions of hate, not trying to say anybody says anything bad about them. Now, the reason why they do that, of course, is divide and conquer. They're doing it so that you will feel intimidated and not bring it up, because the evil that's being done in the various classes, races, cultures, those evil are all part of the same army of destroying humanity, destroying the West, which is the last bastion of hope for stopping globalism tyranny, right? So they're going to take and use those people in their army. You can't march into America with like an army from China or whatever and start, land on the beach and start taking land. It's a different world now. High-tech weaponry doesn't allow this. It's now in fact, I remember in looking at the American Revolution, Britain was the strongest nation. It ruled the seas. For a while, France with Napoleon ruled Europe, but Britain, you ruled the seas. I mean, look at all of the subjugated territories throughout the world. So, and yet America beat them in the War of Independence. And I'm not going to go down and say, well, it's because God was helping America. I don't go there. America's got a lot of problems and a lot of good stuff. And I'm not going to go into the morality of it. I think the simple explanation of it is that when Britain came to fight here they are with their red coats are coming, they're marching in order and all this stuff. And then you got the guerrilla warfare from the American fighters up in trees and hills and doing all this stuff. And it was a new type of battle, a new type of warfare. And plus they're thousands of miles away. They have limited ability to support themselves here, as opposed to having on land when they can have cities that are behind you that are sending you supplies. So it was done. It was an asymmetrical warfare that won today. Well, that's what's happening today. It's asymmetrical warfare. They're going to use the homeless and the poor immigrant to go after the economic system. They're going to use the illegal alien, the people who are sneaking in the country with drugs, to bring drugs in to break down the youth mostly, but people taking drugs. Now they got a good way to get drugs in the country, and fentanyl deaths are skyrocketing. They're going to use illegal immigrants, to hit the economic system. You're going to bring in cultural wars in education to brainwash people into being a New World Order form and not allow open talking and discussion and disagreement. the sciences with the global climate change is taking over the sciences, and any talk against that, you're shouted down. Just like if you talk about whether it be like Black Lives Matters or homeless crime or illegal immigration, you're shouted down because those are their army. That's their army. That's their asymmetrical warfare army that they're using in this. And if you talk about election fraud, you're shouted down because that's what they're using for it. So you can't, anytime somebody says you can't question this, that's the biggest and best time to question it. That means they're hiding something. I've quoted this before. I remember reading a commentary. I forgot what it was. I forgot one of the big preachers in the past. Sturgeon, I forgot his name. He was writing a sermon, and he was talking about, it says this is weak, the stance is weak or whatever, so talk loud and pound the pulpit. And you got to put on a big show to go, because the actual stuff wasn't that strong they were leaning on. And that's how it works. So, yeah, I know they're bad. They're evil people of all times. And when you get money, old money, and high intelligence and psychopathic lack of having any care for anybody, any kind of empathy, you can do massive harm in the infrastructure and the people who are simply low intelligence, low training, low ability, will do the dirty work on the ground. And combined, it's the army that's taking things over. So it's not that any ethnic-based or any cultural-based crime should not be looked at. I wish it was put together in the context of crime, of immoral, of evil, of harming. And a lot of people do that, don't get me wrong. But the people who don't either are part of the asymmetrical warfare team, or they're people who are doing harm while bringing out this information. I can't control how the person, somebody listening to the show, many turned it off already. It's I can't control who can listen, and I'm not going to try and say things so that people will keep tuned in or keep listening. I have no attachment to how many and who listen. All I'm doing is saying the stuff that I feel that I want to share this information, and people can do what they want with it. But when people are presenting the information in a way toward a certain group to get a certain following, especially at the expense of another group, I got a problem with that. And it's all over the place, whether you're left and right, for example. And the right are going nuts over Trump and Trump fans and Trump supporters. People on the right are going nuts over Biden and the Biden regime and all that. And the problem is because the lies and propaganda is being presented as truth, and over time you've created a group of people who assume that it is true if they say it. There's your war. And I think that whenever we are, and I'm going to use the word we as Christians or God-fearers, however you want to say it, when we act, we have to act, the what would Jesus do thing. We have to act a certain way. You can't call Biden names. It's not going to help. It's not going to do good. I mean, all that is now is you've become part of the disinformation war. Not disinformation, the cultural war, the asymmetrical war. You've become part of it. Because if you're on the right and you're causing names and doing all this stuff and putting up weird pictures, and so you're doing all that to attack the left, you're doing the same thing they are. You're no better. I say you're worse because a lot of the information that we have is actually correct and factual, and it can be written off by simply the tone of saying it. Again, you can't present yourself in such a way as to try to woo a certain audience in, but I think that you can present yourself in a manner that would be it would be acceptable if like Christ was looking over your shoulder, something like that, it'd be like, there's nothing you got to point out. I mean, I heard Tucker Carlson the other day do a show, and he said something that I really liked. Speak truth out loud. I like that. But since Tucker Carlson has left the constraints of Fox, he's getting a little bit more loose with his words. The F words coming out, and he's getting a little insultive. And it's sad to see that, because he's tremendous. Tremendous stuff has come out in based on truth, not based on politics, on all sides. And I hope he doesn't go down that road, because your ego and fame and ego and all that are destroyers. I mean, you can look in the rock world and see how many people have been destroyed because of fame and movies, actresses, whatever. So what I like to do is, one of my favorites is Socrates, and his statements was the self-examined life is not worth living. So I apply these things to myself first, and then I share them, because you have to be authentic in this world of propaganda and lies and falsehoods. You have to be authentic. You have to speak the truth. You have to speak it authentically, and you should have the personality and the approach that would be something in line with the principles Jesus taught. And not only with Jesus, there's other people, philosophers throughout the years have good stuff, but to me, I think his is a more of a perfected for what we need, especially now. So that's why I keep mentioning it. But we have to present ourselves that way, and we can't just blame the other guy and bring up all their stuff and then add color and then add sarcasm and add nastiness. That's not good. You're doing harm. It's the only reason why I'm not a big fan of Alex Jones. He's done a lot of stuff that's exposed a lot of things. I mean, I watched his movie years ago called Endgame, and I was amazed at how he could put together a video without all the hyperbolic and schmaltz and all the comments and all the stuff that he does in the show. And to me, for myself, he shoots himself in the foot as he is bringing out the information. And a lot of stuff has come out with him. I'm not saying, well, if I was there, I would do this. I'm not there. And I realized that in order to break through into this system of the world, mammon, you have to be dirty. You're going to get stained if you're dealing in mammon. James, probably my favorite apostle written book, shows that he's one of the guys who really got it, says that true religion is to visit the children and the widows and children in their distress and keep yourself unstained from the world. Very simple, in one sentence. That sums it all up. You help the people who are in need, especially those who are downtrodden or are weak or innocent compared to the world around it. You help those, and you don't get stained by the world. And when you start talking smack on their posts and stuff and being nasty, you're getting stained by the world. And you have to stop. I have very sharp tongue. I mean, years in the past was very sarcastic and sharp in what I talked about. So I was there. It's not like I'm sitting here some kind of holier than thou. I'm far from holier than thou. I'm full of stuff, making mistakes, or even enjoying stuff. And I've seen the error of it, and I don't want to do it anymore. So it's not I'm sitting here condemning others, and I'm not exalting myself. No. I'm doing this because I'm moved to do it. Somebody's got to say it. Somebody will listen to me that won't listen to others either by chance or by compatibility. And I share the information, and people can take what they want from it. I do it all the time with others. I listen to read stuff, listen to podcasts, watch videos, and I take what stuff comes in there. It sits on me. I can feel it it's like underlined. When I'm listening and there's something I need to know or something that resonates with truth, it stands out. And I go, ooh, And I like that, and I keep doing that. And I can hear that from people who are essentially evil or saying bad things. It's just that sometimes I get worn out by sifting through a lot of the crude and rude stuff to find the gems. And I figure, there's a lot of people out there who aren't as crude and rude and have gems, so I think I'll just kind of do that. And plus, I learned a lot over the years. So I that's kind of what I'm looking at is when people simply, all right, it's the Jews, and here's these guys and Rothschilds and all that. Well, that's true, right? But it doesn't mean that if you got rid of all of those folks, everything will be fine. There's plenty of people to pick up the mantle where they left off. And I'm not talking about final solution. I'm talking about in general. If you're going to blame a group, and if you got rid of that group, there's still sin and evil in the world outside of that group that will continue and flourish. I mean, I'm again reading in history when you'd have the evil king and they destroy the king, they kill his family, they kill his leaders and all that. The other guy comes up and he does good for a while, and then his kid comes in and ends up killing his siblings and taking over. I mean, this is what the world does. If you're in a position of power, if you're in a position of influence, if you're going to be getting the hits and the attention of many, that is a rush of a wave that you can't let carry you away. It's all foolishness. I mean, we're all going to die and turn into dust. In the physics, in the mammonary, if you will, mammon sense, we're all going to lose. In the physical sense, it's the spiritual one where the winning is, and the best way to do that is to practice that while living. Have it come out of your mouth. Have it be seen in your actions. Have your words match with your actions. And insulting people and categorizing them in groups and blaming them and wiping your own hands on the fact that you're not them, you're gonna fall. You're gonna fall. This is the point about looking over there and saying, boy, if they weren't there. For example, if we ended up, Trump won, let's say, or somebody won, and they got rid of all the bad guys, they all went to prison, all the bad guys went in there, there'd be a new group who would come up, because power attracts evil. It doesn't attract the good. It attracts the evil. And the people who are good, who want to step forward and have help and power, will be accosted constantly to turn to evil. That's why I think you're going to find more corrupt police than would firemen, because policemen have the power of the law, and they're out there dealing with evil, and they have this power surge that they have to deal with, keep it in check. They got to be able to take deadly force, but not get crazy about it. And yet firemen go into death almost every day fighting fires, and there's no power in that. You go in there and you fight fires, and then you try not to burn and help each other out and try to save people and save the buildings, whatever. No power there. That's total service. Now, I'm not criticizing police. I'm not saying, I'm just saying that whenever you're given power in your service, that's a problem. It's going to be a constant drag at you. And unless somebody has been immune to that power, in other words, if you can walk away from where you're at, in your power position, you just walk away or not walk away, and it really doesn't matter, that's the best place to be. Leaders should be not ones who want to lead, but those who lead because someone's got to, and well, this is wrong, we got to fix it. Not someone who likes to lead. Well, one of the things I heard about Clinton, President Clinton, when he said when he was a kid, he met Kennedy and he wanted to be president someday. Why would you want to be president? Wanting to be president is like, to me, red flags, because you can have that influence of good that ideally the person is looking to be president for. You can have that anywhere in any job that you do. It's the power that separates a president from a community worker or whatever, somebody working in a church or working at your job even, support in your job. It's the power that makes a difference. So when you start to categorize, filter out, and blame groups And it's happening. Of course, they're looking at Trump. It's all Trump's fault. They're trying to prevent him from running for president because he's so bad. And that's ridiculous. If you look at the facts, it's not at all. You might not like him. You don't like his personality. Like I said, I mentioned about Alex Jones. He says a lot of stuff I wish he wouldn't say. But it's the point of what's going to get done that matters. So all I'm trying to do here is to say, okay, let's raise up the bar spiritually, so that when we do things in the world, when we do stuff out there, that we think about the way that we're doing it and look for the evil, the bad, the things that are wrong, protecting the innocent, protecting the helpless. That's how we go out in there and drop the group descriptors, because it's going to be used against you, and it's going to be used against you for using it, and it'll be used against you in terms of blocking you out. As soon as you talk, you're a white supremacist, and if you're white, that is, and if you're black and you go along with the let's call it the right agenda, as opposed to left or conservative agenda. And if you're black and go along, you're white too. You're a white nationalist too, or not white supremacist. I forgot who it is. That one. He ran for governor against Newsom, and I'm seeing his face, and also I can't remember his name. Larry Elder. I like listening to him too. Very articulate. And his critiques are done with kind of an twinkle in the eye, rather than bludgeoning someone, So I like him. He ran, and he was called the black face of white supremacy. I mean, whatever with that. If people would actually listen to what they say and logically think about it, put it out there. What do the words mean? What are they saying? It's ridiculous. How do you have a black face of white supremacy? It's because it's a person who is black who's not going along with the world domain asymmetrical warfare. They're not going along with it. They're going against it. So now they're going to